The story of the Pentagon begins long before the first block of concrete was poured. At the time, the country needed a headquarters that could unify its military branches, but what the planners didn't expect was that the land itself would resist any ordinary design. Measurements shifted. Lines refused to stay straight. Compasses spun slightly off-center. Survey teams blamed the weather, but older workers whispered that the soil remembered something they did not. One afternoon, tired and frustrated, a surveyor knelt down and drew a five-sided shape in the dirt with the tip of his boot. He said later that he hadn't planned it. The shape simply felt like the only thing that belonged on that ground. When the officers overseeing the project saw it, they felt an immediate, strange sense of order. No one could explain it, but no one argued. The five-sided plan was approved that same day. When construction began, the workers noticed quickly that the half-built rings carried sound in unusual ways. A whisper could travel along the unfinished walls as if the building itself were listening. Footsteps seemed to return in pairs, as if someone invisible was walking beside you. Some laughed about it, others tried not to stay alone after sundown. But the building rose anyway, as if it had been waiting to take its shape. In the final months of construction, a room appeared that no one had planned. There were no markings on it, no records of its materials, no explanation for how it got there. It was a small windowless chamber with 5 equal walls, perfectly smooth and cold to the touch. None of the architects recognized it on their blueprints. The workers said they didn't build it. The room was sealed without a number and no one checked it again. Not long after that discovery, the nighttime guards began noticing something strange. A maintenance door that led to a plane storage area during the day sometimes opened onto a long, dim corridor in the middle of the night. The hallway had no lights, but it wasn't dark, just soft and shadowy as though lit by a memory instead of electricity. Anyone who walked down it swore it seemed to shorten itself, always keeping the end just out of reach. By morning the corridor was gone. Supervisors dismissed the reports, but the guards made an unspoken agreement never to walk that hallway alone again. Behind another maintenance closet, a hidden staircase was found. It descended about 30 steps and then ended abruptly in empty space. The air in that stairwell was colder than anywhere else in the building, as if whatever had been planned beyond those steps had been forgotten, or deliberately abandoned. Workers who stumbled upon it often said the same thing. It felt like the staircase was waiting for someone to finish what had been started. There was also the silent room in Ring B. At first glance it looked ordinary, but when someone spoke inside it, their voice sounded normal, almost too normal. And the moment they stopped talking, there was no silence at all, just an unsettling sense that the room was holding its breath, listening. When a metal clipboard was dropped, it hit the floor without making a sound. After that, nobody stayed in the room longer than necessary. As the building neared completion, several workers left the project without collecting their pay. A few were tracked down later, but none of them wanted to talk about what made them leave. One of them finally offered a single sentence to his former foreman: "I saw a door open, and I don't want to remember what was on the other side." After that, he moved to a town far away and never spoke of the Pentagon again. Even after the building opened, new maps were occasionally found in storage rooms or tucked between old documents. These maps never matched the official layout. Some showed extra rooms. Others showed corridors bending at angles that didn't exist. One even included a faint outline of a sixth side, drawn almost like a shadow beside the building. No one ever found a record of such a structure, and yet the outline kept appearing in later drafts. Night workers often spoke of footsteps that followed them through the rings. Slow, steady, and perfectly synchronized with their own. When they turned around, the hallway was empty. The footsteps would stop the moment a second person arrived. Once, 2 guards heard them at the same time. They followed the sound until it reached a blank wall, and there it stopped. To this day, no one knows what they were hearing. Through the decades, the Pentagon grew busier, louder, and brighter above ground. But the rumors about what lay beneath it only grew quieter and deeper. Some said there were rooms that moved locations on their own, shifting slightly every few years. Others believed that the first pentagonal drawing in the dirt wasn't an accident, but an answer, one that the land had whispered to the men building on it. No matter how many people work there or how many years pass, the Pentagon keeps its 5 sides firmly rooted in mystery. It stands as a giant of stone and discipline on the surface, but beneath that familiar shape lies a history made of whispers, mismatched measurements, unplanned rooms, and corridors that don't always stay where they belong. Some secrets were never revealed because no one ever found them. Others were never revealed because whoever found them chose to forget. And the building, calm and silent, continues watching over them all. The Pentagon grew larger year after year, but the stories surrounding its creation continued to drift quietly through the ranks, passed down from one long night shift to another. Most people dismissed them as myths, exaggerations whispered by tired workers. But others sensed that the building held a memory of its own, almost as if it absorbed the thoughts and fears of anyone who walked its endless rings. Those who studied the building's early days often returned to the same peculiar moment, the night when the 5-sided design was first accepted. The sketches from that day were simple, almost careless, yet the shape carried a strange weight, as if it had been waiting to be discovered rather than invented. The architects at the table described it as comfortable, a word none of them would normally use for military planning. They said it felt familiar, though none of them had ever seen a structure like it before. Some whispered that the land had once held something ancient beneath its surface, a forgotten foundation, a buried outline, or perhaps the remnants of an older design that had long since faded from human memory. They joked that the Pentagon wasn't built in 5 sides. Rather, the building was simply uncovering the shape that had always been there. During the first year of construction, when the outer rings had just begun taking form, workers reported seeing faint lines etched into the ground, shallow grooves running in 5 directions, almost like guidelines. They appeared overnight and vanished by midday. No one ever found the source. When supervisors asked questions, the workers answered reluctantly, saying only that the lines felt too precise to be accidental, and too ancient to be modern. Not far from those markings, an early excavation team found a stone slab buried deep in the earth. It was smooth, weathered, and carved with 5 symbols no one recognized. The slab was quietly removed and locked away. The workers who carried it out said it was warm to the touch, as if it had been waiting underground for far too long. The stone was never mentioned in any report again. As the building rose, the construction crew kept noticing odd repetitions. Some rooms seemed to echo the same phrase, spoken by different workers on different days. "Doesn't this feel like we're rebuilding something instead of building it?" Tools went missing and reappeared in new areas without explanation. Measurements taken in the morning did not match those taken at dusk. And certain door frames appeared slightly shifted from one week to the next, as though adjusting themselves by an inch or two in the night. But the strangest of all were the lights. For several weeks, long before electricity was installed, faint glimmers were seen flickering in unfinished hallways. Workers described them as soft pulses, almost like reflections, but there were no bulbs, no lanterns, no sources of illumination. The foreman forbade anyone from investigating. "We're tired," he said. "Our eyes are playing tricks on us." But those who saw the lights never fully believed that explanation. When the Pentagon finally opened, it stood proudly above ground, a perfect symbol of order, discipline, and control. Yet beneath that confidence lay the hidden levels, the forgotten stairwell, the silent room, the hallway that only appeared at night. These spaces did not obey the same rules as the rest of the building. They did not want to be understood. They simply existed like submerged memories that refused to be erased. Over time, new stories emerged. Cleaning staff reported that sometimes their reflections in certain windows didn't move at the same speed they did. A guard once claimed that the center courtyard looked smaller at dawn than at midday, though he couldn't explain how. Office workers occasionally found old papers tucked between modern files, yellowed notes written in handwriting nobody recognized, describing rooms they had never heard of and directions that led nowhere. One of the quietest legends involved a man who worked in the building during its earliest days. He was an older carpenter who took pride in his craft and rarely spoke to anyone unless he had to. He often stayed late, smoothing the edges of door frames long after everyone else had gone home. One night he didn't go home at all. The next morning, workers found his tools neatly arranged where he had been working, but the man was gone. He left no message, no family to call, no trace at all. Years later, a maintenance worker swore he saw the same carpenter walking through a restricted hallway, looking decades older than he should have. When the worker called out to him, the man didn't turn. He simply stepped through a door that had not existed the day before. When the maintenance team opened it later, they found only a blank wall. Some believe the Pentagon isn't simply a building, it's a keeper of moments. That it holds on to certain people the way it holds on to its hidden rooms and shifting corridors. That it decides what remains and what disappears. No matter how many renovations or expansions take place, some things never change. The curious hum in the old stairwell. The feeling that someone else's footsteps are following your own. The sudden breeze in a closed hallway. The quiet that feels too quiet. The Pentagon's 5 sides have become a symbol of strength for decades, but those who look closely see something deeper. The shape is not just geometry. It is a memory, a puzzle, a whisper. A design that feels older than the building, older than the architects, older than the land itself. And as the years pass, the building continues to hide what it prefers not to reveal. Some of its secrets are lost forever. Others wait patiently in the dark, knowing someone will discover them someday, or choose to forget them the moment they turn away. The Pentagon stands, silent and steady, carrying its mysteries with the calmness of a structure that understands itself far better than those who walk its halls. And the secrets, buried beneath its 5 perfect sides, are still unfolding.